Hi, you're watching basically a clip show. A lot of YouTubers actually do this, but I forgot to do it for the longest time. I tried doing it before, but it didn't really work out, so you're watching it first right here on this channel. Next video will come out after this, I think. Before then, let's enjoy some classic What Was, shall we?
I'm a big fan of public access television because of its homemade quality and how it all feels genuine. Public access television can be weird and even disturbing at times, often unintentionally but sometimes intentionally. With all the bizarre shows on public access, there can be some that can be very mysterious. For example, What's Your Problem? This show has been boggling my mind for years, so I finally did some research on it. In this video, we are going to find out just what the hell What's Your Problem was. In 2006, a YouTuber named Neil Young uploaded a video called What's Your Problem on YouTube. The video in question features a man trying to eat a fish in front of a green screen. The fish repeatedly gets pulled from his grasp by what looks to be a string. There's a disembodied voice that repeatedly says, "What is wrong with you? What's your problem?" over and over again. And the man trying to eat the fish is quite normally angered by this, and tries to eat the fish over and over again.
Nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me.
Wrong with you.
Would you shut up? There's nothing wrong with me. I'm just trying to. There's nothing wrong with me.
This goes on for 3 minutes. Our search starts here. Even though this video is the oldest version of the video on YouTube, the description does not tell us much. The description reads, "What's wrong with you? Yet another lost video that used to frequently be aired on Pittsfield Cable Access TV in the late 80s/early 90s. Maker unknown. Please contact me with any info." This, of course, gives us a bit more information about the supposed show. We know that it aired on Pittsfield Cable Access Television somewhere around the late 80s or early 90s. Now with that information, we know that the show originates from Pittsfield. According to a re-upload, this show is from PCTV as well. The original clip on YouTube has since been private for unknown reasons. I think the uploader themselves privated due to its popularity, but that's just a theory. Since this doesn't give us a clue about what this is, I tried to check the Internet Archive for more information, and lo and behold, they actually had it on their archives. And it had info too! A lot of info! We now know what this thing is, and when it was aired as well. The description on the Internet Archive reads, "According to an email YouTube user Advanced Archives received, this program was originally part of a larger source that aired on evenings on Channel 6 Public Access in Tarrytown, New York. Its historical importance to Pittsfield Community Television started when it first aired on our channels in 1988. Garrett McCary, then the executive director of PCTV, brought the program with him from Tarrytown. At the time, PCTV's broadcast day consisted of Wednesdays, and the 'What's Wrong With You' skit would be played in a fashion similar to the national anthem to end production for the week. As PCTV matured, the program went out of circulation on our air. That said, the program has been lovingly kept in our digital archive since about 2013, when it was converted from VHS to MPG. Now we know what this show actually is! We now know that it was a skit that would be played during broadcast day, that it actually originated in Tarrytown, New York. But there's one more thing that I need to know. Who is the actor featured in the video? I tried searching stuff for it, but I could not find any info on this guy. If you know anything about this man, please email me about it. Thank you. So, that's about it. We know where the show was used, and when it was used, and also where it originated. Even if the mystery is kinda over, I am still utterly fascinated by the show, and what it did. I wish the best for everyone who works at PCTV, and I hope you had a good watch. In the early 90s, there was a comic book called Interplanetary Lizards of the Texas Plains. Jeez, that's a mouthful. Published by Leadbelly Comics, which I couldn't find too much information about, but this video is not about them. It's about IPLTP, which is a shortening of that title I'm going to use for the rest of the video, which apparently had a video game adaptation on the Sega Mega Drive, which is what we are going to look at in today's video. So sit back, relax, and let's begin. First, some background in case you didn't know. The Sega Mega Drive, called the Sega Genesis in the US, was released in 1989 in the US, Japan, and some other places. This is where our search begins. A game adaptation of the comic Lizards of the Texas Plains began development around 1992 or 1993, though the exact time is unknown. The game was developed by Tengen. One of the few ways we can get information on this game is to look at the video game magazine articles the game was briefly featured in. Here's an excerpt from two of the magazines. Time for some stellar gameplay with the new game by Tengen. Interplanetary Lizards. Fight your way through lots of levels with this 1 or 2 player action arcade game. Join the lizards as they fight to destroy the forces of evil while picking up power-ups along the way. The rave of comic books comes alive as you enjoy the escapades of Doc, Rattler, and Tumbleweed. These stray alien lizards land on Earth in 1850 and it's never been the same. With this information, we can piece together a small view of the game. Using the screenshots, we know that this game was a third-person shooter, and a basic understanding of its UI. We know from the screenshot that it had sound effects, but it's kind of like comic books. We also know that this game would have been like an arcade game with up to 2 players. However, the game was cancelled for unknown reasons. Most likely because Tengen was shut down by Time Warner Interactive, but that's just a theory anyways. Those magazine articles were the only leads we had for some time. Until 2014, that is. In late September 2014, a copy of the prototype was found in Connecticut by an unknown individual. They then posted on Facebook and said that they would upload videos of it someday. Well, that was a lie. The original poster never posted videos of the game in action, and even the original Facebook post is gone now. Even though the prototype cartridge has been found, the ROM of it has never resurfaced. But there is one more thing the original poster provided: screenshots. The screenshots the original poster provided features the title screen, the level select, and the Alondria logo. How do you spell that? Google, how do you spell that?
Alondria.
Thanks. Anyways, first, the title screen. We have the logo of IPLTP, a 1-player option, and a 2-player option. Also an options menu. The other, more important screenshot features a level select. The levels are divided into 2 acts and a boss battle. For some reason, some levels are labeled as filler only. I don't know what that is. If you do, feel free to comment. With the names, I think the level featured in the magazine advertisement is Black Springs. No other name fits that image. The level select also features the time of May 17, 1994 at 9:59 AM. Sadly, these are the only other images of the game we have. We also have the cartridge, which is just a regular Genesis cartridge with a label that says the game style and date. Nothing special. The game's prototype cartridge being destroyed makes me happy, but since the ROM is not publicly released, the game is still partially lost. Oh well. Well, that was a strange topic. Like an obscure lost Sega Mega Drive game that was based on a comic about space lizards. But surprisingly, this comic I did not care for. It was fun to research. If anyone knows the lead, please feel free to contact me. I actually picked this randomly, but it was fun to write and edit. I hope y'all had a good watch, and thank you.
April 2nd, 1995. At this specific date, a masterpiece of game design was released. A game so ingenious, it boggled the minds of the people who played it. The game was such an artistic achievement, it made people question whether or not human thought had reached peak excellence. It made the great artistic minds of our time bow down in fear. And that game was Hong Kong 97. Hong Kong 97 was an unlicensed Super Nintendo game created by Sunsoft, which was just one guy, by the way. The game is just a regular shoot-em-up that just repeats after you defeat the final boss. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've seen other people cover it before, the angry video game nerd. But in this video, we're not gonna be talking about that. Rather, we're gonna talk about a spoof of it created around the 2000s. And that game is Taiwan 2001. The political status of the island of Taiwan, wait, excuse me, Chinese Taipei, is a controversial one. It's hard to explain this without angering at least two people, so let me explain. So basically, China sees Taiwan as a province, Taiwan sees itself as a country. So, what does this have to do with the video again? Well, actually, this game has a lot to do with this political stuff. For example, the game frequently uses Taiwanese politicians in its images, and the overall has a bit of a political tone to it. So anyways, here's the story. The game takes place in 2001 in Taiwan, in which citizens of mainland China are invading, bringing crime and chaos. Wang Xiaoming is sent by the Taiwanese government to reform the mainlanders. Wang Xiaoen is related to Wang Xiaomin, though their exact relationship is unknown, and it is assumed that she was working with and helping Wang Xiaoen in his sites prior to the events of the game, but was apparently kidnapped by the Chinese Communist Party of mainland China, who turned her into an ultimate humanoid weapon and cloned to be used against Taiwan. Now it's up to Wang Xiaoming, along with the rest of the Taiwanese force, to defeat Wang Xiaoen. Wang Xiaoming is the boy featured on the title screen, and Wang Xiaoen is the head of a girl on the title screen. The second screen features Chen Xiaoban, who was the president of Taiwan from 2000 to 2008. Since the game takes place in 2001, I think he was present at the time, so I guess it was correct. So that's about it. That's all I have to say for the general gist of the game. Also, the creator of this game is called Kusosa, which is Japanese for crap, so I know this is a mock-up company since I couldn't find anything about them, so well, I don't know how to segue into the gameplay section, but here's what we have. The screenshots of the gameplay is strange to say the least, with what looks to be a random Chinese text scrolling down a screen, almost like an enemy attack. It seems you are the poor green screen image of Wang Xiaoming, and there are some extremely pixelated enemies that look really bizarre. There also appears to be like random numbers on the screen. I can't really find what they mean. I would have assumed they were like high score things, but it's hard to tell. The other screenshot features a similar screen with actually has similar enemy placement too. How is that possible? Like, the text is in the same place, the guy is in the same place? It's pretty strange. The third screenshot is actually the game over screen, which is just weird CPR dummy. It's not that scary. Of course, it's a parody of the Hong Kong 97 game over screen. I'm not sure if I can show that. So the fourth screenshot and the last one is gameplay featuring the boss battle between Wang Xiaomin and Wang Xiaoen. She's holy head. So before I clear this up, the illustrations used in this game are from Taiwanese textbooks. I don't know which ones they are, but I did find an image of one that looked vaguely familiar to the art style of the game. So, yeah. Moving on. And now we are going to be talking about its distribution and its availability. So this game was a downloadable game, unlike Hong Kong 96, which was a cartridge. So this website has a lot of stuff in it, including comedic icons based on the characters. Jesus Christ. Which is very bizarre. Yes. The website page that had the download link is archived, but the download itself, it ain't archived. It's gone. The download link is broken now, which makes me pretty sad. But I still have my hopes up because the game was actually pretty recently became lost, so I think it's very likely that a lot of people had downloaded the game. So someone has the link to the download. They have the files, they have the program file themselves, they could share it, but I guess they didn't. I also tried looking for this game on YouTube since it only recently became lost, but I couldn't find anything really. Oof. I hope this game gets found soon. It seems really interesting. Anyways, I hope you had a good watch, and thank you for watching.
Welcome back to What Was, a show where I look at and explain obscure lost media to you, the audience. In this series, I have talked about a lot of things, ranging from video games to a scratch profile. However, one of these videos was about a certain type of television, public access TV. Public access television is strange to say the least. It's basically homemade television, which can be really experimental at times. This experimentation has made some really bizarre shows, including Asylum for Shut-ins, Video Psychotherapy. This show has been boggling my mind ever since I heard about 5 years ago, kinda like another video of mine. And on this video I have finally decided to dig deeper into it. Let's just begin our journey into the bizarre world of the doctors, shall we? The Doctor is a sadistic, power-mad ventriloquist dummy who administers doses of mind-bending video ultra-violence and savage social commentary. He delivers his demented therapy with machine gun-like collages of horror movie clips. Audio and video samples fused together in a musical tapestry of terror, madness, and destruction. Coming attractions for the end of sanity. Elements of science fiction, horror, war, documentary, and government information films are whipped in a relentless assault of explosive movie clip madness. The shock of video psychotherapy, which has a cult following across the nation, strips away the thin veneer of moral pretense, exposing the dark truths behind modern socio-political posturing. This is the description of the show, word for word, from the website. That is quite the description if I've ever heard one. Indeed, the show is quite chaotic with extremely strange scenes from movies thrown in with a really distinct editing style. This show really boggles me, quite frankly, by just how high quality it is for a public access television show. The show follows a format where the Doctor talks to you directly in a negative light, often telling stories along the way. I have watched all episodes of this show, so you don't have to, but let me tell you, it is a trip. During the episodes, Doctor tells how he will crush you with his boot, stuff like that.
Love TV. I love TV. I love the shows. It's so funny. But the thing about for me is I'm never going to die. I have an unlimited lifetime. You, on the other hand, my friend, your life is short and your life is already wasted.
You may be wondering, are there full episodes? Well, if you search it up, you will find dozens of clips from the show and a few full episodes. Now, here's where the confusion begins. Both of the clips I mentioned have their titles list the date they were aired. The first one is 1990 and the other one is 2004 respectively. So it started airing in 1990, right? Well, another video with a clip of it states that it's from the late 80s, and another states the show went on from 1987 till 1992. I know it's kind of confusing, but I'm putting this show around those days specifically so I can put a time on it. The Vintage Asylum is the version of the Asylum for Shut-ins that ran from 1987 till 1992 like the video suggests. How do I know this? Well, this version has some minor differences. Doctor's design is less defined in this
but overall it's extremely similar to the show from 2004 with the same overall editing style and even the same lines at times. The channel who uploaded 3 of these vintage clips is called TZ Video Productions, who most likely taped these on their VHS tapes. There's something really fascinating here. There's 2 versions of Asylum Vintage 1, one with slightly different lighting and not much else. I managed to find 2 Asylum Vintage episodes in the Asylum website, which I'm going to discuss later. Now, why only 2 episodes? I don't know either. Since the show went on for so long, I thought there would be more episodes of it, but guess not. I managed to find out some information about the creator of this thing. Apparently, they have a major in video editing. Well, that explains the extremely good editing. Though I'm not too sure about this since I've only heard about through YouTube comments. It apparently aired in Cleveland according to some YouTube comments. I know it's not too reliable of a source, but there's some things we could go off of. Oh yeah, the website. The Asylum for Sheddon's website is where I did most of my research, and it is pretty cool. It has clips from episodes and a few links that are broken because they ran on Flash, and Flash is no longer supported. These pages are really fascinating too. One is titled Press, and the another is titled Fan Mail. One could speculate that these things had a lot more information about the show, like the Fan Mail section has like stuff relating to the show. Like, maybe we could get some more info about it, but we can't really speculate all that much. We don't really have much from them. If I could use these pages for information, I would have way more information. But, damn it. Well, I do have a bit of footage from a fan mail section, but not fully. It's a short segment, but still. It's from the YouTube channel Blame It on Jorge, who covered it in an old video, which is where I found out about it in the first place. It's nothing special, it's just a flash animation with something in the background. I can't really decipher what that is, but it's something. I wish I could actually access these pages, but okay, I'm just repeating myself. At least a small bit of the features can still be accessed. It's not that much anyways. The show also has its own Facebook page, which actually has a post that features a link to a very recent clip that was uploaded in 2017. I can't really find this episode anywhere else, so this must be a really recent clip. And this really does mean that the show is still going. Not much is found on the page other than a fan club for the Doctor, apparently. There's not much else about it, really. I think this is where I should end things. Considering the fact that the show is still going, I think there's a high possibility that more episodes can be found, and more episodes probably do exist. I mean, I think this is actually a pretty cool show, and the video psychotherapy segments where the Doctor talks is kind of relaxing in a way. In a psychotic way, of course. Don't actually watch these. Anyways, I hope you all had a good watch, and thank you for watching. Hello and welcome back to What Was, a show where I look at and explain obscure or lost media to you, the audience. Lost music is a very interesting topic for me since I hold music to a very high regard, and I even make music myself. Lost albums, singles, whatever you name it, somehow it will always get under the radar, either intentionally or unintentionally. Today we are looking at an intentional one, an album called The Black Room by the Copyright Liberation Front, which was scrapped after the band disbanded after an award show. Anyways, let's begin. In New Year's Eve, 1987, acclaimed British musician Bill Drummond had a great idea while walking from home. He wanted to make a hip-hop record, so he phoned a fellow artist named Jimmy Cauty, who was an artist at his former label, and he started recording music with him. In early 1987, both of them adopted alter ego nicknames and adopted the group name The Justified Agents of Moo Moo. They used a ton of samples from popular music, from any era of music really, with a drum machine playing in the background while Drummond rapped about social issues and stuff. After a legal issue with the sampling, their debut studio album was withdrawn from stores. Their second album was released afterwards in 1988. Then they changed their name to the Time Lords and released a single called Doctor and the TARDIS, which was especially made to make a #1 hit. And it did become a #1 hit, so hats off to them, I guess. They even made a book about it. After dropping another single in 1988, they retired to justify the ancient whatever's of Moo name to the KLF. During this renaming period, they were working on a road trip movie and a soundtrack to go along with it, but it didn't go on well. It ended up being never released, but bootleg copies of it do exist on the internet somewhere. The name of the album was The White Room, and during this time, a complementary project was being developed to go alongside with it. Well, of course, the White Album did end up being finished and was a commercial success, just like their previous efforts, but the complimentary album was never finished. In 1990, the Black Room was first mentioned by the group in an interview. Unlike the White Room, the album was much more industrial and heavy. This was inspired by an actual event where the duo went to a rave club with a malfunctioning speaker and played screeching bass drums. This intrigued the duo, who were inspired by this experience that later led them to the creation of this album. During production, the duo started collaborating with the group Extreme Noise Terror, which made them switch the sound of the album to thrash metal. They even almost collaborated with Motorhead before they went with Extreme Noise Terror, but Motorhead declined the offer. In 1992, they were nominated for a Brit Award for Best Group, so all was good in the end, right? Well, February 12, 1992. The duo was supposed to play their hit song, 3am Eternal, but things weren't all that well. During planning stages, the band wanted to throw a bucket of blood into the audience and an actual sheep on stage, keeping in line with their bizarre artistic expression from their earlier years. They managed to purchase the sheep, but the plan fell through. The lead singer drummer almost considered chopping his hand off live on stage. Why did they think of doing this? Well, they wanted to be ostracized from the music industry after their recent success, so they wanted to go out on an anarchic note. On the date and hour of the performance, the band performed the noise rock remix of 3am Eternal, but the band didn't want to go to waste, so the performance was concluded with Bill Drummond literally firing an automatic gun over the heads of the crowd, which was loaded with blanks for safety, of course. The band left the stage with confused onlookers at the scene, wondering just what the hell happened. Then, a person who narrated some stuff by the KLF before announced the band's disbandment. The band was over. Most people just thought the PA announcers were joking and that the band were pulling a prank on them. After this event happened, the band actually kept doing work on the Black Room with the Extreme Noise up until May 14, which the group announced their retirement from the music industry and wiped out their entire back catalog. Yeah, the album was never finished, and it is most like that we won't be finding it anytime soon since it was completely destroyed by the band. But they did go on to make some other projects along the way after their retirement.
Baby, line goes where the islands go.
After their retirement from the music industry, Drummond and Carter both founded the K Foundation, which was an art foundation they used for their artistic projects after the KLF disbanded. For example, in one of the artistic films, they burned £1 million, which was what was left of the KLF's earnings at that time. In November 1995, they announced that the KLF Foundation wouldn't do anything for 23 years. After 5 years of not doing any performances, the KLF finally returned to do a brief performance in 1997 for 23 minutes. They entered the performance in motorized wheelchairs and looking really old. They performed the new song, well, not really, it was a remix of an older song, but it was still new material, and it's still the only single they have released since 1997. It was called Fuck the Millennium, and was accompanied with some posts that said, Fuck the Millennium, with a phone number that you could call to vote for it, I guess. The performance ended and the band disappeared again. During this time, the band also became the K2 Plan Air, a company created by the band to be a quote-unquote music company, but that really didn't go anywhere. 23 years after they burned £1 million in Liverpool, the band finally returned under their Justified Inches of Moo Moo name. They did a 3-day event where they debate on why they burned £1 million and stuff like that. They also mentioned building a people's pyramid. It's kind of strange, but okay. Finally, in 2021, at long last, they finally uploaded their long-deleted catalog on streaming services. They were finally back. They upload music videos and albums on their YouTube channel, with the newest release just being a few days ago as of recording this. Well, this officially means that without a doubt, the Copyright Liberation Front had rejoined the music industry. The creative genius of this band really amazed me when I did more research on them, and I wish both Bill Drummond and Jimmy Cauty the best when it comes to their music. Hello and welcome to another episode of What Was. After a short break, I am finally back to tell you about lost or obscure media once again. 3D animation has come a long, long way. It used to be extremely expensive and hard to pull off, and now we can do 3D animation very easy at your home. Of course, people tried to make an easy accessible 3D art program before Blender and all that stuff even existed, one of which, and the topic of today's video, is 3D Choreographer, a 3D program that was available between 1992 and 2006. One of the earliest commercially available 3D programs ever. Join me as I dive into the strange history of this one program. In 1992, a person named Jeffrey Friedman created a shareware animation tool called, you guessed it, 3D Choreographer, published by Anycom Incorporated for the purpose of making animation easier for people that didn't know how to animate. It released with two versions. The first one was $199 and featured a few actors and some animation templates, and another much more expensive version for $349 that had a lot more stuff included, 230 actors and 60 AVI files to be exact. These two versions were later merged together as a singular program for $109, which is cheaper than both programs, by the way. This new program also came packed with two new programs as well. One was 3D Chore Kids and the other was 3D Chore Video Effects Studio, both of whom were used as an editing tool used to import actors from 3D choreography and put them in real life scenarios. Well, at least that was one of the features. Some of the demo files in GIF format were actually archived, so we can actually get a good look at how this thing worked and stuff. These are straight up masterpieces. These should be hung in museums. Put them in the fucking Louvre instead of the fucking Mona Lisa or whatever. These are actual pieces of history right here, not some no-name portrait of some random guy or whatever. Like, seriously, name one person who gives a fuck about portrait presumed. Of course, nobody. Nobody but funky art people who like visiting museums for whatever reason.
This video was made in no way against people who like visiting museums. I literally only said it as a joke.
We need to display the true piece of art, like this girl showing us the pituitary gland and going tits. This pencil guy sketching the word hello. And this dude chasing a constantly warping piece of money. Wonderful. I hope that the person who runs the Louvre sees my message and changes their mind about what things they display at the museum. Wait, what were we talking about again? Oh yeah, 3D Choreographer. When it was released and during the time of its availability, 3D Choreography was covered.
Why the fuck did I say 3D choreography?
Including PC Magazine. Here's a short excerpt from one of the magazines. The hardest task in animation is making characters move realistically. Anycom's $149 video choreographer uses pre-designed actors with hundreds of built-in movements. So even a beginner can convince animators properly, whether you're creating a business presentation or your own cartoon. 3D choreographer finds a way to make believable animated sequences. Yeah, believable animated sequences. Now, you may be asking yourself, are there any big or famous uses of this program anywhere? Well, I'm glad you asked, because this specific program was used to animate a full-length TV movie. 2 movies to be specific. One of which was so infamous, it's widely regarded as the worst Okay, fine, it's Rhapsody Kids. Yup, this was animated using this. This film, along with the other Vultures Studio movie, are literally the only examples of a studio using this program that I could find. And not just that, these were the only external use of this program that I could find. Yeah, despite its quote-unquote popularity, I cannot find an external use of this program other than these 2 movies. Anyways, if you don't know about Rhapsody Kids, let me give you a extremely short introduction that doesn't even introduce the characters. Rhapsody Kids is a made-for-TV movie that aired in 2002. It follows some strange kids doing some things, yada yada, some stuff happens.
Christmas.
Honestly, there are 500 fucking videos about this topic, and you should probably watch those instead if you want a more in-depth look on this thing. Surprisingly, the director of this movie hated 3D Choreographer and said it made ugly animations and lacked a 3D engine. But they stuck with it because it fit with their budget and stuff. I mean, to be fair though, the original concept sketches weren't that good to begin with. Like, what the fuck is this thing? Well, you may be asking yourself, Parky, why are you talking about this random special that was animated in this thing? Well, the whole reason why I found out about this thing in the first place, the Lost Media Wiki page, was created because of Rhapsody Kids existing, so yeah. Well, the movie is one of the 2 ever instances of this program being used. There was one more movie made by Wolf Tracer Studios that used this program, and that one is Wolf Tracer's Dinosaur Island. Well, in 2004, the very last movie, or anything really, made using 3D Choreographer came out. It was slightly better than Rhapsody Kids with better models, but you can definitely spot the lack of anything animation proficiency at all, or the storytelling. The story is pretty bad, and also it's the only time I'll give this movie because there are many reviews of this thing. You just watch those instead. Now this is where the story kinda suddenly ends. In 2006, 3D Choreographer was discontinued for good. The website wasn't taken down though, and it stayed up for quite a while, as late as 2013 even, but it was taken down later, probably by the few or one person who still operated the website, probably. The website is pretty fascinating too, with loads of downloadable video demos that are still downloadable through archives. These videos are another way of us looking at how this thing operated, and it looks just as clunky as you'd expect, honestly. Some demo footage on the website is sadly lost. Break time is not downloadable at all, and so is Agenda for whatever reason. I have no idea what that video is. Some of these videos being available at all though shocks me, because you'd think these don't be lost to time. I guess some kid archived most of it back in 2001, or maybe some random dude, who knows. I still have to wonder though, why did the program stop being supported? It wasn't like unsuccessful or anything. I mean, it was up for 14 years. My best theory is the creators realized how outdated it was. Like, new up-and-coming 3D programs were already way better than 3D Choreographer ever was. It probably felt like an old guy trying to desperately cling on to life in a constantly changing market. Even though it's discontinued, I still appreciate how it did 3D animation for just regular old people before that became popular at all. I hope you all had a good watch, and thank you for watching. I would really like to see this thing found someday. Hello and welcome back to another episode of What Was, or should I say, episodes. You see, this isn't a normal episode of What Was where I cover a single topic. Rather, this is an episode where I cover 3 different topics at the same episode. Why is this? Because I want to torture myself. I mean, obviously it's because all the topics in this video have very little information about them. And it would be really boring for me to just make a single short video about one of them. So it's going to be like 3 short videos in one neat little package. And now I'm talking about this for too long, let's get the intro over with. The internet is a vast web of endless information. There's even a theory that all media that has ever existed exists on the internet in one way or another. And we just don't know about them because the internet is so vast, there's just no way we can find them without digging deep for days, months, and even years. With all that information being stored, some of them are bound to get lost over time. In this video, we're going to be looking at 3 examples of lost internet media. Let's begin. The first topic we're going to be looking at is the website Come On an 80s and 90s nostalgia website that was about all kinds of things from those 2 decades. The exact time when the website started operating is unknown. However, it's most likely that it started operating around the early 2000s. It also had a YouTube channel called Flank.tv. However, that account has since been deleted for no particular reason. Well, there actually is a reason to it, because the website stopped operating in 2014. Why was this? Well, the owner of the website simply did not renew the web domain name because he was too focused on other projects at the time, leaving the website to be shut down in the process. But it was later purchased and turned into a blog, but that didn't last very long, and it also went down in 2017. Not much to know about what the website's contents were, with only a single main page screenshot and 2 archives of actual articles. But let's try to understand what this website was in the first place. Starting with the first of these 3 main finds, and probably the most important find, is the main page of the site. In this screenshot, we see some buttons that link to other parts of the website, an articles section, and an update section. If you're one of those people who might ask, when was the screenshot taken? Well, if you look in the articles section, you'll see an article about an actual event that happened on February 12th, 2010. So it's most likely this is a screenshot from February 2010. The other 2 main finds are nothing that special. It's just 2 articles that aren't even fully archived. One is a personal tribute to Nickelodeon Studios, and the other one is about the writer of the article's experience visiting an ice cream parlor. Now, you may think that I found these 2 archives through archive.org, right? You know, the Wayback Machine. Well, there are no archives of ComeOnFrank.com on the Internet Archive. In fact, ComeOnFrank.tv seems to be blacklisted from the archives. That's really fucking strange. Like, I never thought of the idea that a large archival website like archive.org that archives every corner of the web would actually blacklist the website to me. It's such a weird thing, and the strangest thing is we don't even know why this is the case. So we're just left to wonder why. Speaking of why, let's jump over to the next topic. Y'all like Gusher? I don't. Never even tried one. I don't think they sell those here. But if you do, you are in luck. In 2005, you could win a sweepstakes in which Gushers would redo your room. They also had a website that had a virtual world in it to promote the sweepstakes and stuff. So, you know, this would be a cool website for a single event, right? But that wasn't really the case for this one. As even after the event ended in like 2005, it didn't really last that long. The website kept going. It went on for like 2009 even. That's like 4 years after the event had ended. Jesus Christ. So, what happened to it? Where did it go? Well, we do have archives of some of the pages. One is from 2005 and the other one is from 2007. And I can't access them because Flash Player isn't supported and this website requires Flash Player. So we only have like 2 screenshots to go off of. So the first one we're going to be looking at is the main page of the site. It's not really something that special, it's just that building with some buttons that lead you to other pages. Like, it doesn't really have that much going for it. Just make it a virtual party, you know, you can invite your friends, already have a room, take the express elevator. So let's just move on to the second and much more weird one. So this one is supposed to be a page. I'm not even gonna try to explain it. It's literally just a fucking image that tells you to go outside. I mean, like, seriously. Apparently disappeared every 30 minutes, and like it would just say continue or quit. Oh yeah. Next, dude, just next. It's fucking next. And last but not least, we're going to look at the YouTube channel Joeed. Now, when you look at this channel nowadays, you will only see me at the zoo. Seems like he just uploaded a single video then completely vanished, right? Well, that wasn't always the case back then. Between 2005 and 2010, Joeed would upload a ton of videos to his channel that were all kinds of stuff like 3D animations and, you know, real life vlogs even. So he really didn't have a type of video at all. So why were these videos deleted, you may ask? Well, there's actually no reason for it. Joeed had a habit of deleting his videos shortly after they were uploaded, though I couldn't really find that much information about them considering the fact that his 2007 YouTube channel archive has videos from 2 years ago. But whatever. Due to this short video lifespan, most of his back catalog has been lost, with some being found, but most of it only remains through archived thumbnails. So let's check them out, shall we? So the first video we're gonna be looking at is not really something that special. It's just a promotional video for the Apple II, I guess. Okay, so the next video we're gonna be talking about is nothing that special. It's just a 3D render test of a water going to a cup. Except for the fact that there's the body song playing in the background. No joke, I'm not joking, that's serious. I have no idea if this was part of the original upload or if the archivist guy just randomly added this in for fun. When you archive something, you gotta keep it as close to the original as possible, so it's most likely that it's from the original. So as you probably guessed by now, most of these videos are nothing of note, but the most notable ones are the ones with the strangest names possible. Like, for example, Age of Turmoil, High-Tech Cow Milking, and What the Hell. And these are just some of them. It's unknown how many videos he uploaded during his channel's video uploading lifespan, but the largest amount of videos being 121 videos from December 2005. His last upload was supposedly in 2010, however I can't seem to find any proof of this anywhere. So what's the reason for the missing uploads? Well, I don't really have any clue as to why they were
Deleted.
Maybe you could give some ideas in the comments below. Yeah, thanks. I think I should end this with possibly the most important video that was deleted from the channel. YouTube, from concept to hypergrowth. A 50+ minute
Presentation.
detailing the development and subsequent growth of YouTube. It was uploaded fairly early on in YouTube's lifespan, just 2 years after the site started back in 2005. Back then, YouTube wasn't as big as it is today. However, it was experiencing growth no website had seen before, so it only makes sense as to why the co-creator would make a video documenting the history of the site. This makes me think of a ton of things about YouTube and the internet in general, and it's that we're all living in the most well-written period in human history. Every single hour of a day is recorded nowadays. History is well kept in many real and online archives. But these 3 pieces of internet media tell us something, and that is despite being the largest archive in human history, the internet is not a perfect archive. Things get lost even on the web, which is why I'm telling YouTube, go to archive.org and archive something that means so much to you. A YouTube link, a TikTok video, whatever.
It doesn't matter what you're archiving, it's the thought that counts. You'll never understand the meaning of something until it's gone forever. So, that's the moral of the story, folks. Goodbye.
Hello and welcome to another episode of What Was, a show where I look at and explain obscure or lost media to you, the audience. This is actually the very first viewer suggested topic. Thanks for suggesting this to me. Even though I can't seem to find your original reply. But anyways, early 2010s internet animations are a very fascinating subject to me. While the 2000s webtoons had influence, the 2010s webtoons had legacy, and one of those webtoons was Battle for Dream Island, an animation series created by brothers Kerry and Michael Huang in 2010. There was also another show called Inanimate Insanity that came out after that, but that was actually the third object show ever created. So what was the second one created in between the two? Well, That object show was called Total Fruit Island, a mysterious object show that was created in between Battle for Dream Island and Inanimate Insanity, and it's kind of infamous in the Battle for Dream Island community. But anyways, in this video, we're going to talk about the Strange Lost Object show. Let's begin. To fully understand this lost object show, we must go back a few years to 2008, when Carrie and Michael Huang would create a comic strip detailing the adventures of a few objects. Some of these characters may seem a bit familiar to you, and that's because this concept later evolved into Total Fiery Points. What, you thought I was gonna say BFDI or something? Anyways, this comic went on for a while, even spawning a sequel series called Total Fiery. About a year later, the Huang brothers decided to make an animation series just like the comics they made, and got Adobe Flash. Almost a year later, this concept later evolved into Battle for Dream Island, a Flash animation series created by the brothers in 2010. The series follows inanimate object contestants competing in a competition to win the illustrious Dream Island, and it was extremely influential, paving the way for many object shows to come. So since the first season was so successful, the Huang brothers decided to make a second season, creatively titled Battle for Dream Island again, but that wasn't actually the second object show created, it was just a second season in a series. The second object show ever created is Total Fruit Island, and now I shall talk about it and stuff. Total Fruit Island was an object show created by in December 2010, making it the second object show ever made. The show was pretty similar to BFDI. It also had an orange character with a generic Fu Manchu mustache and eyes. This information was revealed at a work call during BFD's production, and it remained relatively obscure until a YouTuber by the name of Spartan Dash uploaded a video explaining the BFDI iceberg, in which he has a short segment on Total Fruit Island. This video made a lot more people interested in this show, and shortly afterwards, Humany, Carrie's vlog channel, would upload a video talking about the things he remembered from the show, and also clarifying a few things other people have said about the show, specifically the orange contestant, saying that he had no ill intent in creating the character. He also talked about how the show wasn't actually animated in Flash, and how it was just a MS Paint slideshow kind of deal. And all the contestants didn't have individual shapes, they were all just colored circles. Speaking of contestants, let's talk about the contestants for a bit. In the comment section on the Humany video about the show, a comment from a user called Hayden Martin mentions there being a Starwood contestant on the show. Another comment left by user Alex Lyon states that the show featured a dragon fruit contestant. So was there any more? Was there an account that actually subscribed and watched these videos back in the day? Well, actually, there was. A YouTube user called Puster12345. The Twitter account of this user was found, and it had lots of details on the Total Fruit Island channel, and these tweets are, in no particular order: I subscribe to Total Fruit Island's channel on YouTube, I liked the video episode 1 Rise Up Death Mountain, and I liked the YouTube video episode 2 Stuck Between Walls. So these three tweets actually confirm three things. The first of these things is, well, the Total Fruit Island channel existed, so this show was definitely real, not made up by anyone. The next two tweets actually confirmed the episode titles, and it also confirms the fact that the show had at least 2 episodes. Oh yeah, I forgot one of those. Another tweet says, I like a bit of mood swings in a person, that's why I wrote of Starfruit. And the last tweet reads, avocado. What am I supposed to say? It's literally just a tweet that reads avocado. It's unknown if this tweet is referring to an avocado contestant or if it was another video entirely, since the show had a whole fruit thing going on. Many people have also remembered a banana and an apple contestant, though details are scarce, so these people may have confused this show with another BFDI clone another person could have made. All this speculation towards what was at the time a fairly obscure show, right? Well, actually, the show actually got 40 votes during its lifespan, which may seem like nothing, but it's kind of impressive when you think about how early this is in the object show community. So with all that information in place, you might think there could be at least one archive of something relating to the show, right? Right? Well, not really. Not a single piece of media from this show has resurfaced. No images, no episode list, no nothing. So we can only speculate on how this show could have looked. Speaking of speculation, since this show has garnered a significant reputation in the BFDI community, there have been many attempts at recreating it. Most are harmless recreations using the information available at the time when the recreation was made, but some are downright malicious. These are the ones that claim that their recreations are the real deal, with literally no proof to back their claims. What's even worse is more of these fake leads being made makes it more and more difficult to actually find Total Fruit Island in the first place. A little suggestion if you want to get involved in the search. Try asking people who have been around the BFDI community during its existence what they remember from it, and if they have it saved on their hard drives or something, and try looking for it more on other file sharing websites since YouTube is kind of an unreliable source due to all the fake mockups I mentioned earlier. So you know what, that's that. This is the shortest segment of the video, and I think I should move on to the next, the final chapter. Total Fruit Island is a type of lost media that I've dubbed to have an invisible influence. Basically a type of lost media that influenced a major part of a certain subculture, but has since never resurfaced. There are many examples of this so-called invisible influence, and Total Fruit Island is one of them. I mean, it was the very first BFDI fan animation after all. It was the second object show ever made, and without, I don't think the current BFDI landscape would have been the same. While a few people remember it, a lot more people have probably seen it. It's fascinating how this decade-old, long-forgotten object show has regained so much interest in such a short period of time. This goes to show that even a brief mention of a lost piece of media can make it go somewhere. It's gonna be a matter of time until this one gets found. Maybe on a hard drive, maybe on YouTube, whether it will be called Free 270p Movies Download Total Fruitland.mp4 or simply Fruit.avi. No one knows for sure. Thanks for watching. Hello and welcome to another episode of What Was, a show where I look at and explain obscure or lost media to you, the audience. The fabled online game craze of the early 90s, a fabric of an earlier point in time when streaming games wasn't a possibility, so you needed to do a complicated process of buying, dialing, and waiting just to let games get broadcast on your television. These online-based gaming things are a very interesting subject that can lead to a lot of interesting pieces of lost media. Tonight I want to cover one such case, and that case is Videoway, an interactive TV system thing that ran in Quebec, Canada from 1990 to 2006. It was the very first interactive TV in North America, and it had an extremely large audience at its peak. And I'm going to talk about it today. Let's find out what this first of its kind device was, shall we?
City officials today announced that video games no longer will be licensed in residential areas, only in commercial and industrial neighborhoods. Officials say they are responding to complaints from parents that children have skipped school or stolen money to play the games and made a nuisance of themselves.
In the 1980s, many parents were starting to get worried about video games because in the 80s, games started to have violent imagery like guns, violence, and drugs. This caused an uproar to commence, and many news outlets all around the globe started reporting on these horrible video games corrupting the youth. Andre Chagnon took notice of this uproar in his own province of Quebec and decided he needed to do something about this. He wanted to make the perfect family-friendly console for the masses. He was the CEO and founder of an extremely large telecommunications company in Quebec after all, and he also patented a teletext service not too long ago. So, does he do it? Well, he goes to the Videotron offices and devises a plan to create the perfect family-friendly console. He plans on making it an interactive TV as well, a first for any company. He eventually settles on the name Videoway, after the trademark office they use to register the teletext service I mentioned earlier, and so sets his goals on creating the perfect family-friendly console for the world.
L'émission qui suit est une initiation à l'univers de Videoway. Elle vous informera sur le fonctionnement de l'appareil et sur tous les services offerts.
Videoway was launched in Quebec, Canada on January 24, 1991. It was heavily marketed in TV spots, magazine ads, etc. as an all-in-one system that you could use for anything you'd want in your household. The system was capable of many things: home automation, shopping, banking, gaming. It was sort of ahead of its time in a way, but the interactivity wasn't only for checking the weather, as there were many interactive channels that you could access with the click of a remote. For example, in the sports channel, you could interact with the sports on screen. But how about the games made for the system? Well, there were about 40 or so games made for the system. So let's take a quickish look at some of them in
Pour jouer aux jeux vidéo, il faut attendre 25 secondes, le temps nécessaire au transfert du jeu entre l'ordinateur Videoway et ton appareil. Mais une fois rendu, il y reste et tu peux y jouer aussi longtemps que tu le désires.
There were a bunch of video games either made for or ported to the Videoway system. The video games were provided in both English and French, as per usual with official Canadian bilingualism laws. The games were provided by Cable Jeu or Cable Game, a subsidiary of the official Quebec Lotto Board. There was a wide range of games. There was an official Qbert port, a Burger Time port, and a few official games as well, like Temporal Link. This game actually has a fan-made recreation made from memory. This is actually a pretty fun game, and I highly recommend you visit the recreation site, as it's pretty damn good. These are a few of the notable ones at least. I couldn't mention them all after all, there were like 40 or so games. A few of these games were actually shown at a Quebecois game show from the early 90s. 3 clips of the show were uploaded to YouTube way back in 2007, but unfortunately the rest of the show is lost media. After all that in mind, you would think that this thing was a huge success, and while yes, 300,000 plus users across the world at the height of its popularity may seem like a lot, but in the grand scheme of the telecable business, it's relatively minuscule. The company spent a lot of money on the advertising. Most people in Quebec didn't buy their product, and even when excluding Quebec, it didn't receive much international use, the biggest international use of it being in the United Kingdom by their UK branch. It was expected to have millions of users by its creators, but it didn't even reach 500,000. But the thing that caused it all to end in the first place wasn't incompetent marketing or bad executive decisions, but rather something that wasn't in their control, the growth of a little something called the internet. The service slowly stopped getting support as the internet got more and more available. There were a ton of educational games on PCs after all. There was just no longer a need to have a teletext platform on TV when internet access was just so much easier. Plus, Videotron kind of replaced Videoway by a digital TV system in 1999, and after that the company just stopped advertising the Videoway outright, not putting it on their website, not paying other reality shows to use it, nothing. And then, in a quiet evening on April 24th, 2006, Videoway was discontinued. And after that, every Videoway system in the nation was replaced by modern digital television systems, and all the remaining consoles were destroyed. Sort of. There are many conflicting reports saying that they were and weren't destroyed, but finding an actual physical Videoway system nowadays is extremely hard to do despite it selling 500,000 copies. So, was there any hope for this system really? This isn't the first piece of media I've covered on this show that was the first of its kind. Obviously, the first of any piece of media won't last too long. It will eventually get replaced in the growing market. But with this one, its failure to fully catch on is intriguing to say the least. Many people have fond memories of using this device, so even if we lose every Videoway system we have, we can still make it live on in our memory. Thanks for watching today's episode of What Was. I'll see you next time for the Early 1967. You have entered the venue after seeing a poster for a 1,000,000-volt light and sound orchestra. You have been interested in electronic music for a while, and seeing the poster you thought it would be fun to experience this fascinating new genre in all its glory. While inside the venue, you remember a name from the poster that caught your attention: Paul McCartney. You obviously knew him from the Beatles, but this time this was only credited to him specifically. But then, the song starts, and it's a nightmarish collage of sounds, screaming and all sorts of noises. But those screams Unholy Pauls is screaming from John, drumming from Ringo, guitar string from presumably George, and you realize something. This is the Beatles. After several plays throughout the evening, the song finally stops being played, and you think this is gonna be some amazing new song after your upcoming album. But it isn't. In fact, this would be the last time you and many others would hear this song, ever. Of course, the song I'm talking about and the subject of today's video is The Carnival of Light, an experimental piece that the Beatles recorded a few days before the Million-Volt Light and Sound Orchestra, and it's one of the few Beatles songs that have been never released, even on bootleg recordings, making it extremely rare. In this video, I'm going to try to explain its creation, its appearance, and disappearance. This is the What Was season finale. Let's begin. 1966 was a turbulent time for the Beatles, as many controversies rocked the group, and they decided internally that stopping to tour would be the best for the band moving forward. But it was also an important time, as their genre-spanning, soundscape-defining album Revolver, released earlier that year, was a huge success. While recording the album, the Beatles became a lot more acquainted with avant-garde music, especially Paul, who was quite fond of the genre and wanted to make an avant-garde song himself. His interest in the avant-garde scene eventually led him to the design firm Binder, Edwards, and Walken. These three artists would expand Paul's knowledge of the avant-garde art a lot more, and he would eventually friend them. In late 1966, David Walken painted a colorful piano for Paul McCartney, and while delivering it to his home, he thought of something. You see, his design firm was planning a light and sound rave. So, after a simple knock on the door at Paul's home, he asked him a simple question whether he wanted to make a song for his rave or not, and Paul accepted. But he held off on recording it until January 5th, 1967, the second session of the year. That day, the Beatles were recording overdubs for the track Penny Lane, a new song intended for their upcoming album. After finishing the overdubs, Paul remembered the song he intended for the BEV rave, and suggested to his band, "This is a bit indulgent, but would you mind giving me 10 minutes? I've been asked to do this thing. All I want you to do is wander around all the stuff and bang it, shout it, play it." The session was chaotic, to say the least. The tape has no rhythm. The Beatles make literally random sounds, although they sometimes respond to each other. For instance, a burst of organ notes answered by a rattle of percussion. The basic track was recorded slow so that some of the drums and organ were very deep and sonorous, like the bass notes of a cathedral organ. Much of it is echoed, and it is often hard to tell if you're listening to a slowed down cymbal or tubular bell. John and Paul yell with massive amounts of reverb on their voices. There are Indian war cries, whistling, closed mic gasping, genuine coughing, and fragments of studio conversation. And then with Paul asking with echo, "Can we hear it back now?" After the session ended, George Martin stated, "This is ridiculous. We gotta get our teeth into something more constructive." And so, the track was done. They eventually sent the monotape to the event organizer, and then they waited until a Million-Volt Light and Sound Orchestra. From January 28th till February 8th. You're finally here. After all this time, the rave is finally starting. The song premiered for the first and last time, but you didn't know. You just stood there in pure wonder. How did music turn into this? This is the greatest thing ever made. Are a few of the crowd chatters you hear during this piece. It's played again and again and again. What's the song Paul is playing? You don't care. You just stand there. All this happened in less than 5 years.
It's amazing, someone says. All this, but no one's on stage. Where are the Beatles? Eventually, you leave the venue. It's quiet, but you can't forget what you heard at that venue. In reality, John and Ringo were doing whatever, and Paul and George were watching a Four Tops concert at the Royal Albert Hall during its premiere. And Paul was quite upset that the organizers played the song multiple times instead of the agreed few times, meaning that the people in the venue actually heard Fixing a whole month before the song actually came out. Surprisingly, despite this being the Beatles, news outlets didn't actually pick up the song's premiere, since the news outlet they didn't follow underground rave parties, obviously. All of this had a quiet but slight impact on the Beatles. Y'all became a lot more accustomed with avant-garde music. The song was the first avant-garde piece the band recorded, but it wasn't the first one released. Oh no, the first one to actually release an actual album is
Number 9.
Revolution 9 was initiated by Lennon during the sessions for what would become their self-titled 10th studio album. Much like the previously released Carnival of Light, the piece has been suggested to have been influenced by avant-garde acts of the time. So why are we talking about this piece when everything about it is known? We know so much about it and it's out, you can listen to it right now. Nothing about it is related to the Carnival of Light, right? Was what I would have said if I didn't replace it as the Beatles' first avant-garde piece. Since the Carnival of Light premiered at a rather underground event, Revolution 9 was hauled as the first Beatles avant-garde piece, and Lennon was seen in the public eye as the artsy Beatle, despite Paul being the first one technically. Even if they didn't know it at first, Lennon and McCartney unintentionally showed their friendly rivalry in just 2 avant-garde compositions. As time went by, Lennon eventually forgot about the Carnival of Light composition, and so did the general public. As it was fairly uninfluential in the grand scheme of things, people just moved on. But other people didn't. Those people were bootleggers. As the music industry progressed, bootleggers started selling illegal recordings of bands either at live shows or at their studios. These bootlegs often revealed unreleased tracks by the bands that got swept under the radar due to many reasons. These bootleggers often looked for tracks from the most prestigious bands, or just bands they really liked, including the Beatles. While they managed to find almost every single song recorded by the Beatles during most of their career, they couldn't get their hands on a few songs, Carnival of Light being one of them, which is odd considering how easily Beatles songs get leaked through bootleg sources, and the fact that EMI never destroys their Beatles tapes. This hard-to-access nature gradually increased its infamy in the Beatles community, and Paul was aware of this, and when asked about it, would give answers to questions about the song.
So right, we set out some mics that actually were set out anyway for the guitar, for the drums and everything. And I said, let's just wander around these mics, and if you see a drum, just sort of bang on it or shout, hey, yep, or hit a guitar note. So it doesn't have to be significant. We should just wander around the studio hitting stuff, and that will be my music.
He has tried many times to get the song out officially, the most infamous time being during the sessions for Anthology 2. During these sessions, McCartney talked to Ringo, George, and Yoko about potentially releasing the song in the compilation, which was supposed to be an archive of the Beatles' entire career and had a ton of takes that were less than impressive. When asked for its inclusion, George, Yoko, and Ringo all vetoed the decision, as they thought it was never truly intended for a Beatles release, and that it was too experimental, as George put it. This wasn't the only song rejected for the compilation, but it's the most well-known. Ever since then, Paul has wanted to release the song for the longest time. He still has the song in his possession, but it seemingly can't find a way to release after dozens of compilations and the 50th anniversary Super Deluxe of Sgt. Pepper's. After all that, the song seems to have no chance of being released at all. But was this ever meant to be a Beatles song? Yes, all 4 Beatles recorded it together during the sessions for an album. George Martin was there, they all played the instruments. So, why are we even asking this? Bands often record one-off tracks for fun or for an event, only for a single use. The Carnival of Light is a prime example of this. It's just not a piece of material that would get positive views from the public if it just randomly released right now. And yet, we still look for it. We try desperately to get at least a crumb of it out of the lost media bubble. And it's because no matter what happens in that piece of media, people will still look for it, no matter how insignificant. In April 1970, Paul McCartney stated in a press release that he was no longer part of the Beatles. This was due to many business and personal reasons the public was aware of for the past 2 years or so. But to hear the news, it utterly broke people. But it also taught them that great things are never meant to last forever, so get to know them while they're still around. Many fans tried to get through this time by buying bootlegs and collecting memorabilia, and yet they couldn't reach a few songs. In essence, the Carnival of Light is the spirit of the Beatles. It's their collaboration, their wit, their strange yet appealing style, and despite how bad and horrible it may be, it's still the Beatles. It won't be found, but it's still exciting to imagine how it could have sounded like. It's exciting to think about the stuff the public didn't get to hear from the band, and it's because people want a light at the end of the tunnel. Something they can think about long after that something they loved is gone. And it's that form of escapism that drives people to move forward. It's that kind of sheer existence that makes people think of what could be out there. And in the end, isn't that what lost media is? It's been a long year. A year full of surprises and events. It's been a year in which I discovered myself as an individual. And I've got nothing but you to thank. Thank you for watching what was. I'll see you for season 2.